At this point in time, in the year 2020, the 150-gallon aquarium, it's getting a little bit neglected. It's getting completely overgrown, and that means it's time to fix it. One of the cool things about Pogostemon erectus is that it grows extraordinarily fast. It's very cool looking and fills up a lot of space. One of the cool techniques that you can utilize with Pogostemon erectus is planting it in a spot, allowing it to grow, and once it grows too tall, you can actually trim the stem down 2 to 3, maybe even 4 inches from the substrate. It will sprout and regrow, which means that you can leave your aquascape the way that you set it up initially, continue to trim it without having to dramatically move everything around. As you can see here in the video, I'm assuming that I'm going to be able to pull that off here still like one more time. Turns out that's not the case, just not coming out the way that I want it to look, and it's just overall going to be a terrible mess if I go ahead and leave it that way. Being stubborn like I am, I just kept trimming and assuming that I wouldn't have to pull everything out, mainly because of timeline concerns. I was really sticking to the fact that I could just go ahead and trim this once again and that would be fine. Ultimately, that ended up not being the case, but even though I'm going to have to pull everything out of the substrate, I thought to myself, hey, it's best to just go ahead and trim these ahead of time so that I can just go ahead and replant them. Worst case scenario, I have to pull all the stalks out and replant anyhow, so I just went ahead and kept on trimming just to get everything trimmed up and also be able to kind of take account of how much space I have and where things are going to have to move in relation to each other. Now that we have all the plants removed from that area, we run into our second problem of the day, and that would be the substrate. It's difficult to see from your perspective, from the camera's perspective, but most of the substrate that was in this area that the Pogostemen was holding in place has now kind of shifted. And that happens when you go ahead and pull these giant root balls out of the area. Things have a tendency to flatten out and kind of shift in the outward direction. Typically, on the Earth, you would see this as erosion, but considering everything is trapped inside of this aquarium box, right, it's very difficult to kind of see how everything kind of shifts and moves outward. So what I'm going to do is continue building up this back area behind the rocks that I have, kind of holding it in place. It creates sort of a pedestal, which makes it much easier to plant in that area back there. I am adding more fluval stratum to the area back here. I'm utilizing my zip tie container, which is kind of comical, but it's a wonderful tool. If you happen to have a zip tie container that's no longer keeping zip ties in it, go ahead and utilize it for this. I fill it up with substrate. It's very simple. Then I just slowly introduce water to the container and bring it down into the area and utilize it to place substrate where I want it to be. Then I use my little paintbrush that actually is an actual paintbrush, nothing special about it, to kind of locate the substrate where I want it to be, which will allow me to replant the Pogostemen. kind of move along in the video here, you will notice that there ends up being a lot more space available for other plants to go in, and I assure you I will be adding more plants to this area, and it will get 100% filled in. Overall, I'm happy with the replanting, even though I was counting on kind of not having to do that just yet. It was best to just kind of bite the bullet and go ahead and do it. And overall, I have to say I'm pretty pleased with kind of filling in the area the way that I have it now. I have it kind of going in a diagonal flow as opposed to sort of a rounded area, which I had before, a sort of a semicircle kind of, or maybe even just a half circle. I think I'm going to be happier overall in the long run with the way that I have this planted. And yeah, I'm happy to have gotten that done. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Everyone would appreciate it. It's a fantastic video, right? I don't know. It was kind of fun. I had a good time. Hopefully you had a good time, and kind of took you away from the trials and tribulations of just the day-to-day whatever, right? Later.